Hello and welcome to Security Scan. I am Vishal Dahiya, and this week we will take a look at several amphibious aircrafts. China has successfully completed on-water trials of its indigenous amphibious aircraft named AG-600, which is roughly the size of a Boeing 737. Powered by 4 turboprop engines, the AG-600 can carry up to 50 personnel and has a maximum operating range of 4,500 km and takeoff weight of 53.5 tons. Japan and Russia also have their own amphibious aircrafts, namely ShinMaywa US-2 and Beriev B-200. While Japanese US-2 can carry 20 passengers with a maximum operating range of 4,700 kilometers and takeoff weight of 47.7 tons, the Russian BE-200 can carry 72 passengers but has a maximum operating range of 3,300 kilometers and takeoff weight of 37.2 tons. While AG-600 will add to China's capability of exercising more muscular approach at sea and islands, the Indian Navy has no amphibious aircrafts as of now. India has been holding parleys with Japan for some time now to acquire the ShinMaywa US-2. Now, ShinMaywa Industries Limited and Mahindra Group had also signed an MOU during DEF Expo 2018 in Chennai to manufacture and assemble the amphibious aircraft US-2 in India. So what is the importance of an amphibious aircraft for Indian Navy, and what are various features and characteristics of these 3 major amphibious aircrafts, that is Chinese AG-600, Japanese US-2 and Russian BE-200. For more on this, we're joined by a distinguished panel of guests today. Let me start by introducing them to you, beginning with the retired Major General Ravi Arora, Chief Editor of Indian Military Review. We also have with us retired Lieutenant General P.C. Katoch, and defense expert, somebody who has written extensively on amphibious aircrafts. And then we have with us retired Commander Abhijit Sinha, the General Manager of ShinMaywa India and a former naval officer as well. Welcome all of you to Rajya Sabha TV studios. Let me begin with you, General Arora, to try and understand as to why we are discussing the amphibious aircrafts. China has tested one of its aircraft just recently. But then there are 2 others as well, and India has been trying to go ahead and procure the amphibious aircrafts for its Navy. So how would you put the importance of an amphibious aircraft as far as Indian scenario is concerned?
Just imagine, with the Chinese aircraft which has been tested and likely to enter service in 2020, 50 are on order. And when they come in, the Chinese will be able to land, because each aircraft has a capacity of 60 troops, 3,000 soldiers within, say, 3 to 4 hours, anywhere on the coastline or nearer our islands. Whereas we do not have any capability, such capability. We don't even have the capability to come to the rescue of our ships stranded on the high seas, because an amphibious aircraft can land near a ship, take crew and repair personnel, take spares, and of course carry out search and rescue and carry out surveillance missions. They can carry out cargo missions, it can transport troops, it can do so many different things. That's why the Navy wanted it. The Navy has said since 2011, when they raised the request for information, that we need an amphibious aircraft. It's very sad that no progress has taken place. Now look at Maldives, which has 47 amphibious aircraft, although of smaller sizes, mainly for tourism and for taking their citizens from island to island. And globally, 20 countries are looking for the kind of amphibious aircraft which Japan has got.
Okay.
So there definitely is a requirement for the Indian Navy, particularly because the Chinese have built up this capability, and by copying the US-2, it's a bigger version of the US-2. And we are stuck with a joint working group with the Japanese.
Okay.
which has not made much progress.
Okay, we'll talk about that from the representative of ShinMaywa India as well. But one thing in nutshell is that yes, amphibious aircraft is very, very crucial. Let's bring in Lieutenant General Katoch here. General Katoch, how do you look at this entire issue of requirement of an amphibious aircraft? Because it is said that our Navy so far is restricted to the sea operations rather than to the shore operations. So has the time come to make that shift?
Let me begin by saying that when President Gayoom of Maldives asked for India's assistance, Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi had ordered the NSG to go in. But the IG Ops of NSG went back to the Prime Minister that in case the strip in Malay is held, our guys don't even know paratrooping. So please give it to the para brigade. Now, if you've been to Malay, if that airport was held, even with the para dropping, a lot of people would have gone into the sea. Now, if you had the amphibious aircraft, you can go and land anywhere. And this aircraft is primarily for search and rescue. In addition to what General Arora has said about the Chinese capability, they have also already ordered 4 Russian aircraft that gives them additional.
The BE-200.
Yes. So they are going in for a massive capability, whereas we are just nowhere. So we definitely require.
Okay.
I'll also like to mention that the predecessor of the US-2 was offered to India.
US-1A.
The US-1A, when Admiral Bhagwat had gone to Japan, and what the Japanese wanted was that you position 2 in Andaman and Nicobar and you have a joint control of the Indians and the Japanese. But somehow we said no. But definitely we require amphibious aircraft.
Okay, so it is definitely required to augment the capabilities of Indian Navy and to ensure that several operations, be it search and rescue or surveillance, can be carried on. Let's bring in Commander Abhijit Sinha, the General Manager of ShinMaywa India. Commander Sinha, if you look at the responses which have come in from both our panelists, it is indeed established that yes, amphibious aircrafts are very, very crucial at this stage, given also the fact that Chinese have, tested their own indigenous aircraft of this type. So where do we stand as of now as far as Indo-Japan dialogue or talks or parleys on acquiring ShinMaywa US-2 is concerned, and what is it on offer?
Okay, like the General mentioned earlier, that it is definitely a big need, and the Indian Navy had come up with the requirement in 2011. Since then, the discussions have been on, and as you all are aware, that it's probably heading for a government-to-government acquisition, and that's how both the governments are in the discussion mode. I must also accept the fact that for Japan, this being the first military sale, they are going in for a lot of their own constitutional amendments to facilitate this. Having said that, they have already finished those portions. The discussions on the costing of the whole issue is on, and there have been many SOPs which has been offered by the government of Japan to government of India, but the final acceptance of those and a declaration has yet to come from the government of India. We are awaiting that, and hopefully in the coming summit meeting or somewhere around there, we should hear something positive.
Okay, General Arora, that being the case, if you look at all these 3 aircrafts, is US-2 the effective choice? Because, if you look at the specifications, they are different in all 3 cases, AG-600, B-200, the Russian one, and ShinMaywa US-2, the Japanese.
When the RFI was issued, these 3 companies responded: Canada's Bombardier, Russia's Beriev, and Japan's ShinMaywa. All 3 aircraft meet the requirements. The Indian Navy's requirement is much lesser than the capabilities of all these 3 aircraft. But the Indian Navy has indicated, and the course of events which has unfolded has indicated, that the Japanese ShinMaywa US-2 does not only meet the requirements, it's a game changer for Indian industry, for Indian tourism, for so many requirements. And that is why one is actually surprised. The Japanese are more keen, and they are going out of the way to facilitate the sale of this aircraft to India, as compared to the keenness which the Indians are showing in acquiring it. There are reasons, I'll come to that. So this aircraft, which meets the Indian Navy's requirement, if I am not wrong, in case of range, Indian Navy had laid down 800 nautical miles, so it meets the range requirement and all the other requirements. But for tourism, Union Minister Gadkari is on record to say that out of India wants to develop 111 rivers as waterways with seaplanes operating. And this aircraft is suitable for that purpose as well, which will lead to, because of the joint production offer given by the Japanese, which will lead to India becoming a hub for MRO of all amphibious aircraft in the Indo-Pacific region. And because it uses Rolls-Royce engines, which are also used in other aircraft, and this Rolls-Royce engine is in use in many other aircraft in this region, it will become a hub for servicing of these engines as well, hopefully, through the offset route. So it's a game changer.
There are several aspects involved here.
I think the Bombardier and the Russian Beriev are no longer in the run, because from the Japanese side, the Japanese Prime Minister over the years, whether it was the present government or the previous government, in joint statements, in joint declarations, they have all said we are ready to cooperate with India, offering joint production and also giving a fillip to the Indian aviation industry through this manufacture of the US-2. And it's not only aviation industry. The field will then be open to cooperate in many other high technology areas, because Japan is a leader in aerospace engineering. So we can look forward to meeting this requirement, as well as seeing a sea change, as I might put it,
having an extra
in Indian
edge.
industry scenario.
Okay, wonderful. General Katoch, if you may also put your views forth as far as the comparative analysis is concerned, though as General Roy is pointing out that the Russian B-200 is no longer in the race, because the talks are already going on with the Japanese for US-2. But when we look at all these specifications, and given the fact that Chinese have also tested their own indigenous amphibious aircraft, so what do you see when you make a comparison?
It's a question of what are you looking at. ShinMaywa is search and rescue. It's basically not for troop induction. It can take 20 persons or 12 stretchers. Yes, you can induct small bodies, but the requirement of the Navy is so small that if you are going in for tourism also for this, which has tremendous scope, and now Andaman and Nicobar has also been opened even for the foreigners. So you can lift at least 6 in flying condition for the Indian Navy, and then go in for a manufacture here. But if you are looking at troop induction, then I personally feel you should also look at a mix of the Russian, which is inducting 72 troops. Although now with this American sanctions and all, I don't know whether we can go through with it. But we should also look at that in addition to this.
Okay, but its maximum operating range is much less than what ShinMaywa is.
Yes, 3,300. That's okay. If you are basing these aircraft at, say, Trivandrum, or you are basing them at Andaman Nicobar, you have adequate reach.
Okay, so that should not be a should not be a problem.
Yes.
Commander Sinha, how would you describe as far as ShinMaywa US-2 is concerned? What are the specifics, characteristics which are specific to the Indian needs? And General Arora also pointed out that it meets Indian Navy's requirement and much more than that as well.
Okay. One of the primary requirement of Indian Navy has been that the aircraft should be operating at high sea states, at a sea state of sea state 5, which is about wave heights of about 3 to 4 meters. None of the others qualify on that aspect. That was the biggest plus that why the Indian Navy pitched in for the US-2 aircraft. Now, being in the region around India, most of the time the sea state are in and about 3. The other aircraft, especially the Beriev, it being a jet propelled aircraft, cannot do more than a sea state 1 or maximum of sea state 2 because of their landing speeds being much higher. For the Chinese version, if you see, there's a unique feature in US-2 which is called a boundary layer control system, allows it to drop the speed to very low, which allows it to land at a high sea state. That is But as per the open source information about the Chinese aircraft, they do not have this, which is a specialty only for the US-2 aircraft. So at the moment, it is very difficult to say, because they have just started their water taxing checks, to say that how it is going to perform at a high sea state. As far as the technical part of the aircraft is concerned. But going by the fact that they have been operating seaplanes before this SH-5 have been operating, and there's a long follow-on between the SH-5 and to develop this, that gives an indication that probably all the technicalities have not got transferred very easily on this particular aircraft, though both the aircraft look very similar. But the boundary clear control system, the hidden engine which we call on the US-2, the fifth engine, is not there in the Chinese version. So from the Indian Navy's perspective, high state operations is a requirement which this aircraft gives. That is the reason why they had shot down Beriev in the beginning.
Okay. How do you respond to General Katoch's point that, as far as search and rescue is concerned, it is wonderful to have ShinMaywa US-2, but then if you're looking at troop movement or something else, then Beriev or, something like that should be a much better option? Absolutely.
General Arora is very right in saying that the capacity of transporting troop at high number is there, definitely there in Beriev. But the problem difference is that if we have a land-to-land base is fine, but if it is in a sea state, bad sea state condition, then the Beriev will not function. That is one part. Russian Navy is also, for a troop movement, have not been utilizing it. They have rather used it more for a firefighting version in their operations. And although they have been offering it to many other countries, including China, the troop carrier version, that is one difference. And for the US-2, yes, maximum for a search and rescue, it's a recorded that it has actually picked up 57 survivors once, but those are lean and thin. Fully armed commandos up to a maximum of 20 to 24, depending you reduce the crew number. So up to 24, it definitely carries even now.
Okay.
Including 2 boats inside the aircraft.
Okay. Okay, so those are the specifications, General, and you also spoke about some of them. But you said that it is going to be a game changer, as and when these talks are fructified and India does go ahead and has US-2 as part of its Indian Navy. But the major important thing, and which has been reported as well, is that transfer of technology is the critical question here. How do we move ahead on that aspect?
No, transfer of technology is being offered. They will be manufactured in India. Even before Make in India initiative was announced, the Japanese had offered to make in India for export. And they wanted to do it government to government. But you see, the problem is that the Ministry of Defense was looking at it just as a search and rescue aircraft, for which it is prohibitively expensive. They have not been looking at it, as you say, as a game changer. The game changer is the kind of fillip that joint production will give to industry in India, to the aerospace industry, aviation industry, for export, the MRO industry. One has to take a holistic view of the whole deal. And that is why in the joint working group, till a few years ago, it was headed by the Department of Heavy Industry and Industrial Promotion, and not by the Ministry of Defense. You see, the Japanese are offering this aircraft as a stripped down version for search and rescue, for firefighting and such benign purposes, because of their constitution, which prohibits military activities and export. So the Japanese cabinet has given a waiver that if it is for these reasons, it can be sold abroad and manufactured abroad. And especially for India, they have given this waiver. As I said, 20 countries are looking for it, but only India has got this waiver. The Japanese do work with the Australians, the British and the Americans on joint military projects, but with no other country. So if this thing happens, what you will find is the Indian industry will grow, whether it's government to government or along with private players. I hope it happens with the private players, as Mahindra has signed a MOU with them. But what will also happen is that when tourism industry gets a fillip, you know what will happen? There will be seaports, there will be marinas, there will be hovercraft usage. All these things will also start building up, creating greater tourism potential in India. So that is why it's a game changer.
Okay. Let's go back to General Katoch here. Somebody you brought out the point of troop movement and the difference between how US-2 and B-200 might be. If you look at AG-600, that is the Chinese indigenous aircraft. How do you describe that? As in, what is it that they are looking at? Obviously, to try and flex muscle in the South China Sea as well as the Indian Ocean region. And how should Indian Navy go ahead and respond later, as and when they have the US-2 or maybe have something else as well?
See, what the Chinese are doing is that this aircraft of theirs, the AF-600, is not only for troop induction. It can scoop 12 tons of water at a time. So it is also for firefighting. And that's what the Russians are also looking at. But basically, it is for troop induction, and that is why they're going in for mass number. And look at the way they have militarized the South China Sea. Now they are concentrating at Southern Pacific, and they are wanting to do exactly the same thing in the Indian Ocean. So that is the threat which is going to build up. Now in our case, we require quick movement of the amphibious nature. As far as the numbers are concerned, the ShinMaywa, before we talk of export, we should be looking at what is our requirement. You see, after all, and how many years are we going to take to produce that aircraft? Because by that time, even the Russian, Chinese are also producing the aircraft. So have we carried out that mental exercise that our tourism is going to, it's okay, Mr. Gadkari also once said that I like 100 aircraft. Are we clear what we want? Because if we are clear, then as I said, pick up these in fly-in condition for the Navy, meet the Navy's requirement and go for joint manufacture.
Okay.
But as far as troop induction is concerned, for the island territories, not only ours, in other islands in this, if we have to go in for any action, we should be looking at the Russian aircraft also.
From the operational perspective.
72. And don't look at it from the high seas point of view. It's not going to go. It's going to go and do troop induction next to a coastline, where you don't have that problem of 4 meters of high waves. So I think both have to be looked together.
Okay. Commander Sinha, US-2 being offered to India and the closest neighbor, China, on which obviously India has a close watch given the fact its presence in the Indian Ocean region and the South China Sea as well. They coming out with their indigenous version, AG-600. So how do you compare both the US-2 and AG-600 in terms of their capabilities as well as characteristics and the kind of heft they will give their respective navies?
From the open source information that is available, more or less both the aircraft's capabilities are almost the same, except for the fact that I told you about the high seas state operations. Of course, the Chinese version, the number of personnel that it can carry is larger than what the US-2 carries. But it is yet a long way to go because the tests have not yet completed. There have been a lot of other attempts before for high seas state operations, and those have not been successful. So as of now, it's very difficult to say as to how they will operate. But certainly, like General Katoch mentioned, that we have got to acquire these aircraft at the earliest. And to my mind, that if we want to avoid a doklam at sea.
Okay, that's quite significant, General. And how do you look at the way forward from here as far as Indian Navy and the requirements as pointed out by General Katoch?
See, the Japanese have said quite clearly, this is how far we can go and no further. They have done from their side whatever is possible. I think if you really decide to acquire this aircraft, they are also going to give fiscal support because it is being offered at a very high price. They are prepared to lower the price and provide the funds for the joint production in India. I think it is decision time now. It's been pending for 8 years now. This is the time to decide how you want to proceed further. Already the Navy has proposed that we should acquire 3 of these aircraft in flyable condition. And
on the platter, the Japanese ambassador said on 21st of March that hopefully when Prime Minister Modi goes to Japan later this year, deal will be signed. I think it should be signed straight away. And the requirement of, they are giving you the transfer of technology. So where is the problem? We should get them at flying condition. The Chinese aircraft, they have said, will be commercially available anywhere in 2022. It's not available today. Russians are available. So even that we should be looking at as a subsequent to the ShinMaywa.
Okay, but at least the move should be made. And as our panelists are pointing out, there are several positive aspects of having an amphibious aircraft as part of our Navy to ensure that it tackles all kind of situations, be it in terms of search and rescue operations or troop movements as well. We'll come back again next week with a different topic and different set of guests. Till then, keep watching Rajya Sabha Television.